we've got a listener question that I hope you all can answer. Anonymous listener, I'm going to call Friederick, who wants to make his mark. So here's Friederick.
Incoming M1 here, and lucky to have had a great application cycle. I'm wondering how to get abstracts, presentations, and publications as a med student in undergrad. When joining a lab, can it ever be guaranteed? How can you maximize your chances? I've found an awesome lab, PI, and a team of grad students that's great. I love my role, but not sure whether or not I'll ever be on an abstract, publication, or poster. Do y'all already have episodes that answer this?
I feel like
all right,
I feel like Miranda may have been distracted.
Acknowledge the elephant in the room.
Yeah, like we just
robots, man.
We've had a listener question via Patrick Stewart monologue. Like this is incredible.
It's very endearing.
I love it.
I know, I love it. Like I will die for Friedrich, but also
it's not his real voice.
It is now.
Is it not?
No. That's an AI.
I was gonna give anonymous listeners so many points. Like if you leave us a voicemail in that voice, like it's an automatic acceptance to medical school. That's a secret menu for med school.
We'll put in a good word.
We'll put in a good word for you.
To Friedrich's question, though.
It kind of sounds like this student is already accepted into medical school and is wondering more about in medical school how you do research. For research in medical school, if you're not MD, PhD, you may not have time to really get that involved in research until like your third or fourth year. And at that point, it's really hard to get a publication done before you apply to residency. I didn't do any research until halfway through my third year. And I did get submitted to journals, but they weren't like accepted yet by the time that application season rolled around. But you can definitely get presentations. Like most medical schools have a research day that you can present at. And I think really just focusing on things that you're excited about, because I'm doing interviews now and it's much easier to talk about the projects that I'm excited about than ones that I just kind of jumped on because it was an opportunity.
Yeah.
You also need to think about kind of what your school offers. Because I know here at Carver, we have the summer research fellowship where a lot of students do research in the summer. And that goes back to like what Miranda was saying, and like knowing your project and knowing what you want to get out of it, because you only have 12 weeks, right, for the summer. So you have to pick a project if you're looking to get published that you can do in that time period.
Yeah.
And really outlining your goals with your mentor is really important as well.
Yeah. Like if you're doing research in medical school, a basic science project will never, ever, ever get published in 12 weeks. Like a chart review has a chance. I think a friend of mine did something where it was like a genotyping thing, and she got her name on a publication in 12 weeks. She might have been first author. I actually don't know. But like those kinds of things are manageable. But
case reports too. Like if you see an interesting case, nothing's fallen into my lap, but maybe if you're more ambitious.
That's a good thought too, case reports. Because can you do those while you're on clinical? Like can you write a case report? Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and I think if it's your goal, kind of going back to what Dave said, kind of lay that out to your mentor from the beginning, because the sooner you have those expectations, the better that writing process will go, and maybe the quicker that your mentor will help you through that writing process. For example, in our lab, we're considering a few papers next semester, and I've already had the conversation with my mentor about what role will I have in those papers? Will I be first author? Will I be second author? Kind of what is my role? And so to have those conversations, despite them being a little uncomfy from the beginning, it will make the process so much smoother, and you'll have some people that are really willing to help you from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think most faculty at academic centers are aware that you're applying to residency and you want to get publications. Like when I did my research in third year, my mentor was very aware, like this is our goal for the intro and this is our goal for the methods. And so it shouldn't be like an awkward conversation. And if it is, maybe you need a different mentor. Maybe they're not that into like doing research.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe it might be a good idea to think about the actual skills that you're trying to develop in making this request.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot to research, even just the nuts and bolts of writing for your publication, for whatever publication you're trying for. I mean, that's a big deal. And, so if you talk to your mentor, for instance, and you say, these are my goals. I want to learn more about writing for research, or I want to insert some jargon that you guys have already mentioned today that chart review. If you want to learn how to do chart, like maybe that would be helpful in, just thinking about the thing that you want to learn out of this rather than the goal of being published.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think having the goal is the key here. Is just, if you really want to, there's definitely options to seek that out. However, it may mean changing your research projection. So if you're in kind of a basic science lab that is doing projects that'll take 4 years to actually get a publication, that goal is probably not as reasonable as a lab that is going to do kind of less bench work and more maybe chart review. And I guess I don't know how useful undergrads are in kind of the world of clinical academic medicine.
Yeah.
But something like that, seeking out research that is going to publish quicker is kind of one key thing.
Here's the thing about publishing as an undergrad, and this is going to be maybe pessimistic, but you don't have as much control over whether or not you publish when you're an undergrad. Like when you're a graduate student, you will publish because that's how you graduate. But when you're an undergrad, like it tends to be like if the lab publishes something that you worked a lot on, you will be included as an author, but you don't necessarily have as much control because you don't have the experience or like the training yet to lead projects. That can depend though. I have also been in labs where undergrads like head up projects and get first authorships, but usually they've been in lab for a couple of years at that point. Like you need to be in a lab for a couple of years.
So starting early, you have a better chance.
Yeah, starting early, you have a better chance. And a certain amount of it is luck when you're an undergrad. Again, because you don't have as much control. That said, the goal of being on posters or doing presentations, much more manageable. And a lot of that is being proactive and looking for conferences, looking for things where undergraduates present, and then like being proactive and going to your mentor and being like, hey, I saw a thing. Can I present a poster at this or do this or have XYZ? Like those are things you have a lot more control over and you're a lot more likely to get those things accomplished.
One key thing, if your goal is to publish, that is really, really awesome. Is it to kind of achieve that goal so you can get into medical school, or is it more so because you really genuinely like research? For example, I'm an MD PhD student. I did not have a publication coming into an MD PhD program.
Yeah, neither did I.
And honestly, until this very moment, it made me incredibly insecure because I felt like I was a lesser MD PhD student due to the fact that I did not have publications coming in. So I just want to remind you, it is by no means necessary to have publications to get into medical school or MD PhD programs. I think it's an awesome goal. I wish that I had been more goal oriented when I started research in undergrad, that I would have sought out the projects that could have given me more writing and experience to be able to get a publication. But I was able to get 1 or 2 abstracts and 1 or 2 poster presentations, which I think prepared me greatly for MD PhD programs, medical school, research, all of the above.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it is not expected that you will have publications as an undergrad in the way that it is expected you will have research or volunteering or something like that. Like people are aware that a lot of this is like getting into a lab is hard as an undergrad. It's a lot less structured. There's a lot more risk in it. You're a lot more subject to the whimsy of your PI. There's fewer safety nets. So it is not expected that you will have a publication by the time you get to medical school. And I feel like this is going to sound either judgmental or pessimistic. So I apologize in advance. But like when you work in a lab and you see a lot of undergrads come through the door, you can tell when an undergrad is there because they want to learn research or they want to learn skills, they want to get that. Or if an undergrad is there because they're trying to boost their resume for med school. Like you can tell because of the care they put into their work. If you talk to the majority of grad students, they will have some horror story about how like an undergrad came in, they didn't really care about the research and like they either like threw away a bunch of reagent or they wasted a bunch of time. No, I can't.
Really?
Just murdered cells left and right.
No, I kid you not. Like there's a strain of cells called competence cells, you know, like one of the labs I worked in, the postdoc was talking to me and like an undergrad basically went through like 2 boxes of competence cells trying to do one transfection because they kept messing it up. Like it's insane. Like, so they can tell both through the quality of your work and just your attitude coming in if you're there because you want to learn. And if you're there because you want to learn, people will want to teach you. Like this, like pretty much all academic people like teaching people and training people. But if you're there just to like check boxes on a resume, you're going to have a lot harder time getting that rapport built up because it's like, but you don't care.
That by quality of your work, you mean the care into which you put into it, not necessarily the results you get out of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I'm talking about like day-to-day quality.
I mean, this
like
poor sap who went through all these, competence. But this poor student who went through, this probably expensive bunch of cells. No. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. But also if they were if they, I don't know, if they got better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that's an easier sell.
Or if they had come to their graduate student and been like, hey, I'm having a problem. Can you help me?
Yes.
At some point before they went there. Because the fact that they tried over and over just was an indicator to the lab that they didn't care about the lab's resources or the student's time. Yeah. Because it's like other people need those resources. So yeah, it's purely just a day-to-day putting good work into your lab, because that builds up. Like the more you show that you care about the work, the more things people are going to want to give you, because you're showing you're responsible. So.
I think it goes into don't do research just to do research.
Yes.
Don't do anything just to do anything. This is the constant. Grant, you fit right in. This is the constant refrain of the show, you know.
Yeah.
Stop thinking of it as a checklist and start thinking of it as things that you want to do and that you want to get better at and you want to improve your competence in, so that you can be a competent cell.
Cells. A bundle of competent cells.
A bundle of competent cells.
Have me hanging out with my bundle of competent cells.
So much better than meat suit.
Yeah. I like it.
I was thinking that's
so you started to explain what a competent cell is.
It's what you name the Discord chat of your competent cells. Competent cells they're usually bacterial cells. I'm assuming there's eukaryotic cells that are competent, but in my experience, it's usually bacterial cells that have been modified or have had things done to them in such a way that they are able to accept plasmid DNA and then accept it and then replicate it is usually what you use them for.
Yeah, you said some words there.
Yeah. So, you asked me to explain.
I did.
And then you
opened that door.
And I'm not sorry. I'm just confused.
Did the explanation help you understand at all?
It did, yeah.
Oh, okay,
I'm
cool.
kidding.
My work here is done by everybody.
Yeah, I feel odd because I kind of have been assuming, ever since this question came in, that he was talking about undergrad research, and that makes no sense now.
I think it's fair to talk about both.
Well,
I think there's probably people that have the undergrad question and some people that have the med school question.
I'm glad we talk about both, because it's I think we can speak more to undergrad side, and then our lovely medical students here can actually speak to the medical student side of things, because I don't know how y'all get research. I get too much research.
How is your research? How's your research coming?
Oh, please don't ask me that.
Is this really a question you ask a grad student? I don't know if that's
like
PC.
off limits.
It's like asking a woman about her weight.
Like asking a grad student when they're going to graduate. Don't ask. Don't ask.
That's not something I would ask.
Don't ask me that.
It's every question I get is, when are you done with school? Don't ask me.
Stop asking.
I'm going to start crying when people ask, just to make them really uncomfy.
You're going home for the holidays. When are you done?
Start bawling.
Never. I'm going to be an old maid still in school.
It's going fine, though.
It's going fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I just submitted a fellowship application. So yeah.
Wow.
That's a process.
Yes.
Congratulations.
A fellowship application.
Yeah. You have to write a research proposal and then be excuse me, NIH, may I please have some money? And then NIH goes, no, write it again. And then you write it again. And then maybe the NIH gives you money that time.
So this is a different kind of fellowship than the fellowship you might get after your first portion of your residency.
Yes. This
fellowship, that's just a bunch of money.
Yeah. I'm asking for money.
That's
Yeah.
I'm asking for a scholarship almost, in this case, but not because it's for a specific project.
Yeah.
At what point did you go, hey, you know what? I could get a fellowship. I don't understand.
About when my program was hey, you need to submit it before the end of your fourth year in the program, so you should probably get on that.
Also, about when they said they'll give us $500 to submit it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Cash that in.
Oh,
get that change.
Doing that. Yeah,
the whole thing.
Wait, that's the opposite of an application fee. You get paid.
It is. It is the absolute opposite of applying to residency, in which you spend all the money.
So wait, what comes first? The idea to get a fellowship or the project?
Yeah, the idea. Well, you have to build up. Okay,
because they're not just going to hand them out to you just because you.
Let me walk it back for these.
Well, unless you're really cute, and then they might be like, "Here you go." Yeah, cuteness rating.
Cute competence cells.
Yeah,
it'd be so adorable. Usually this is something most grad students are encouraged to apply for at some point. It's one of those like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So most grad students and MD PhD students are encouraged to apply for one at some point. For MD PhDs, you have to submit your first application before the end of your 4th year in the program. So that would be your 2nd year of graduate school. And some grad students don't really have, because when you submit this, you need to have like a solid project with some preliminary data and like a direction to go. And some grad students, like for whatever reason, that just hasn't come together for them in time, or they're working on other things and it's not worth their time to submit a fellowship application. So it's more that you are encouraged to, if you can. Like for me, I got pretty lucky. My project has like quite a bit of preliminary data, and I initially got a project off the ground pretty nicely. So I had a pretty solid foundation for applying for a fellowship, but it doesn't happen.
This is like a feather in your cap kind of situation. Like your research is going pretty well, and maybe there's something to it, and you can get more money.
Well, that's up to the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute if it is going anywhere. It's up to them to think if they think it's good. But
so what's the application look like? What is it?
So the application looks like the main body of it is you submit like a 7-page like research proposal. It's like 1 page is a specific aims page, is like a summary, and then 6 pages of proposal. So that's like, here's the background, here's what I've already done, here's what I plan to do. And then there's like 30 pages of just miscellaneous information, which isn't as important, but needs to.
But there's 30 pages of it. What the heck?
Yeah. A certain amount of this, it's been bandied around that some of this is like an endurance test of like, if you're going to apply for it, we're going to make you jump through hoops to get it.
We're going to get our $500 worth.
Yeah. So you have to like set out like what your goals for training are, you have to write up like, a personal statement and talk about your prior research training.
That personal statement again.
Yep.
Always with the personal statement.
It's a very short one though. Okay. It's only like 2 paragraphs.
All right.
So let's like do that. And then like a bunch of technical stuff, like what kind of facilities you have and all this different kind of stuff.
Your PI is, what their education is.
The PI has to do a section, like we have to put his bio sketch in and his like plans for your training as well. And it's just, I have a draft of it. The full F30 application total length is like 50 pages.
Well, good luck.
That sounds way harder than ERAS.
Way more vague than ERAS.
Yeah, it's a lot more vague. Yeah. And some of it is admittedly decently structured. Like there's a bit of it that's just respective contributions. And that's kind of like, it's kind of just copied and pasted over. It's not all incredibly technical, but it is intimidating, which is in some ways part of the point. Like they don't really want you applying for this unless you want it.
So you've just done this.
Yes.
When do you find out?
May.
That's too long.
All right.
Way too long.
It's really far too long. It does not need to. And I think that's when they're meeting as well. Like they're meeting in May, and then they'll let me know at the end of hopefully by the end of May. So this is why I giggled when you asked how's research going, because it's like, I'm trying not to think about it, Dave. So funny you ask me that and then ask me to explain the whole process.
As host, I'm here to bring up the hard topics.
Here to ask the hard questions.
Questions.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I will say, I am glad you asked, because I had no idea what a fellowship grant was going into.
Again, me feeling like a bad MD PhD student. Like,
no,
I didn't know until earlier this year. Everyone kept mentioning F30, like, and I assumed everyone knew but me. So I didn't ask. Because nothing brings more anxiety than feeling like you're the only person in the world who doesn't
they just like drop like
the information that everyone else has.
Have you submitted your F30 yet? And it's just like, what is that?
Yeah.
Let's
normalize these things.
Yeah, normalize not knowing what the hell an F30 is and what the difference is between it and an F31.
Still don't. I mean, barely. Honestly, I think that F31 is just later in the program.
I mean,
wait, I do know. I will clarify. An F30 is for students who are at a dual degree program. F31 is for students who are just getting a PhD.
Thank you.
We can't, MD PhDs can't submit for an F31 because if you need to, or if your program, if you think it would fit better, you can do that. But that's the general distinction.
Perfect. This is great. This is the bureaucracy component of the Shortcut podcast.
Everyone tunes into the Shortcut podcast every day for like the NIH bureaucracy talk. Like, heck, yes.
Just to hear Riley mention her insecurities about not feeling adequate despite being in her 3rd year.
But it is true. Like, I don't think I knew what the step 1 exam was for like the first year of medical school.
No.
Like, not a clue. Because it's like people just drop it in conversation and it's just one of those like, I'll figure out what that is later. And don't let them know that you don't know what that is.
Yeah, not to mention just like every medical thing ever from my nursing friends who just did a 4-year nursing degree. They're out here mentioning medications left and right. And I have to sit there and be like, you guys are way smarter than me. And that's like really good because we need great nurses. But now I feel wildly inadequate for exactly what I was accepted to the school to do.
See, this is why all conversations should take place in front of me, because then I can be the idiot who needs to ask, like, what are you talking about? And you guys can just pretend like you already know, like, oh, I know. It's like, look, I know what that is, but Miranda, I'm going to let you explain.
Yeah, another great example. I did not know LASIK was a drug. I thought it was an eye procedure. Nobody told me it's another name for diuretic until I literally got to my internal medicine rotation. Nobody told me.
Are they spelled differently though?
They are
LASIK?
spelled differently.
Yeah.
LASIK versus LASIK, technically, but like everyone says them the same.
Right, okay.
It's very confusing.
Yeah.
I was like, why are we giving this guy some eye thing for his blood pressure? Somebody needs to explain it to me. So I had to Google it.
Yeah.
Nobody's telling me.
So funny.
I look like an idiot.
As an M1, you kind of just sit in the corner and just nod along as they say a bunch of things that you have no idea. It's like step 2 is like, I know it's a test. What's on it? I don't know. We'll get there. That's it.
Well, thank you for explaining things to me.
Of course.
I appreciate
I hope that helps, Friedrich, and you and your beautiful, beautiful voice.
Want to hear it again?
Incoming M1 here and lucky to have had a great application cycle.
I love it. Yeah, Friedrich, let us know if we've answered your question well enough. And if you have any follow-up questions, love to hear from you again.
And if we didn't, don't tell me. Because
keep it to yourself.
My like, very fragile ego can't take that.
Riley's
clearly.
feeling fragile.
I'm feeling fragile today.
If we helped you, let us know. If we didn't, shut up.
We'll
Pretend
ask
like we
another
did.
podcast.
Pretend like we did.